Hello. As you can see, I'm at work, so I'm going to try to be fast and get this done as fast as possible before I'm needed. So, the client base served by my agency, the Crime Victim Advocate Program, they are victims of relationship violence. They're mostly women, but some men use our services as well. It's just not as often. The agency model of practice, we do a lot of crisis intervention. People are calling, they just got beat up the night before, so they are in crisis still, or their partner is in jail. They don't want them to be. They want to know what's going to happen next and what the next step is. So we have to calm them down, walk them through the court process, and make them feel like their opinion matters and that they have a voice in the court process, which is part of empowerment, which is part of motivational interviewing. And motivational interviewing was the topic in the 2 articles that we were supposed to read. So the description of motivational interviewing in the first article that describes what it is, they described it as communicating with the intention for change. One thing I thought was very interesting in that article was they talked about the need to adopt the spirit of motivational interviewing, and making sure our intention is for the client to decide what is best for them, and not to implant what we think they need to change. I think it's interesting because really motivational interviewing, they talk about it in the article, but it is basically manipulating. So you can manipulate somebody to think how you think. And I think it is a very great responsibility for us who know how to do it to not manipulate people into doing what we think is best for them, and to remember that they are experts in their own lives. So in the second article, was motivational interviewing in groups, and what they did was it was a study. They had 2 groups of teenagers who had used alcohol or drugs for the first time, and they had one group of whatever the usual punishment was, which sounded like it was something like an AA group or something, and then the other group was called Free Talk, and that was where they would use motivational interviewing techniques with these teenagers. So they used a lot of open-ended questions. They asked the young people's opinions and thoughts about what they needed to change, why they needed to change, and how they could change. This definitely made them feel like their opinions mattered. It was very validating, and they had better satisfaction and results with the Free Talk group. As far as applying this motivational interviewing to my internship, so there aren't very many opportunities for motivational interviewing. It's mostly crisis counseling. We do safety planning too with them. We're not necessarily trying to get them to change. We do try to help them when we figure out what it is that they want, but mostly it's giving information about court dates and making sure they are safe in their home, and making sure they feel like they have a say in what goes on in the court process. So one example, though, really good example I saw of motivational interviewing at my internship was the second day I was there, and I got to see a detective interview. There was a client who had been strangled, and when that happens, it's a felony, or when they fear for their life, it becomes a felony, and the detective has to come in and investigate. So I got to see this detective interview. The client did not want the defendant to be charged. She was upset. She didn't mean for it to go this far. So the detective wanted to know what her side of the story was, what happened. So the detective, she asked a lot of open-ended questions, like, can you describe to me what happened? how did you feel when this happened? How did you feel when he strangled you? Were you afraid for your life? Stuff like that. Did a lot of reflective listening. So she would describe what the victim said, and this ensures that both parties understand each other, and that it also can make the victim think about what they just said and think, gosh, that doesn't sound like a good thing or something. So also, towards the end, the detective used in the article, it talks about using I to voice concern, so it makes you feel it's more personal in a way. And so she said, it sounds to me like, maybe you guys aren't a very good match. I'm afraid for you to go back with this person. Sometimes people are just toxic for each other, and she kind of explained it. And, like, this happens. It's okay that this happens, but sometimes it's just not a good thing. And it made the victim think, she didn't push her opinion, but it was definitely eye-opening for the victim. And actually, the victim wound up deciding she didn't want to get back together with that man, and didn't wish him any ill, but she, realized that they just weren't great, and she actually, that was quite a success, and I thought that was quite incredible. And that is how I would like to use motivational interviewing in my internship. All right, I think that is all I have. Thank you.